We spend a lot of our time learning from the greats, right? The heroes, the titans of industry, the celebrated success stories. But what if the most important life lessons don't come from them? What if they come from society's degenerates? Today, we're going to look for wisdom in the strange, messy life of a poet, a gambler, a true lowlife, Charles Bukowski.
So right off the bat, Bukowski's whole philosophy just flips everything we've ever been told completely on its head. We hear never give up. He says, don't try. We're told be your best self. He says, just accept you're a loser. And finding happiness? Forget about it. His advice is to embrace the pain. Now, I know it sounds absolutely nuts, but stick with me here because there's a really strange kind of genius buried in all of this.
So who exactly was this guy? Well, by any normal standard, he was a total mess. An alcoholic, a gambler, a pretty shameless womanizer, a deadbeat, and somewhere in all of that, a poet. I mean, he is literally the last person on earth you'd think to get life advice from, which of course is exactly why he's the perfect person to talk about.
Now, for all his problems, Bukowski had one burning ambition. He wanted to be a writer. But for 30 years, man, it was a brutal, brutal grind. He had this soul-crushing job, filing letters at the post office, all while fighting off depression and drinking himself into the ground. For decades, every single publisher turned him down, calling his work crude, disgusting, you name it. And then, at 50 years old, after a lifetime of what looked like total failure, one small publisher finally took a chance. Bukowski quit his job on the spot and, in just 3 weeks, wrote his first novel, Post Office.
And what happened next is just wild. He went on to sell over 2 million copies of his books. On the surface, his story is the classic American dream, right? A guy fights for what he believes in, he never gives up, and he finally makes it big. It's the perfect underdog story. But this is where things get really weird.
And that brings us to the central paradox of his entire life and to our first big lesson, radical acceptance. Because for a man whose life looks like the ultimate story of perseverance, his core message was, well, the exact opposite.
And nothing shows that contradiction better than this. On his actual tombstone, the last words he left for the world, his epitaph reads simply, "Don't try."
So you have to ask, right? Why? Why would a man who fought so hard for so long, who finally got everything he ever wanted against all the odds, why would he choose that as his final message? What on earth did he mean by "don't try"?
And here's the twist. Bukowski's success didn't come because he was trying so hard to be a winner. It came from the total opposite. It came because he knew deep down that he was a loser. He accepted it completely, and he wrote about his own failures with a kind of brutal, shameless honesty. See, for Bukowski, the word trying wasn't about effort. He saw it as a kind of cop-out. It's this subtle way we have of avoiding real responsibility for what we want and for why we fail. It sounds like you're putting in the work, but a lot of the time, it's just an act.
So, the first real lesson we can pull from him is this. Stop pretending. Stop trying to be someone you're not. The real work, the hard work, is being completely, unflinchingly honest with yourself, especially about the ugly parts. His genius wasn't his talent. It was his absolute comfort with his own failure.
And that idea of honesty leads us right into the second big lesson. We have this belief that success makes people better, that it improves them. But Bukowski's life is this powerful argument that maybe we need to separate achievement from personal growth.
Because even after he got famous, after he had the money and the recognition, Bukowski didn't change one bit. He'd still show up to his own poetry readings completely hammered and yell at the audience. He'd still get into trouble, still try to sleep with every woman in the room. Fame and fortune did not make him a better person.
And that's the real kicker here. Personal growth and success in the world are not the same thing. They're not even necessarily related. You don't have to become some enlightened, good person to achieve something amazing. Bukowski's story proves that sometimes success is just a side effect of being brutally honest about who you already are, warts and all.
And all of this builds to what is maybe his most profound lesson of all. That real purpose, well, it demands pain. It's not about finding meaning when things are easy. It's about finding it right in the middle of the struggle. We have this idea today that finding our purpose should feel good. It should be like this blissful, euphoric moment of discovery, like a 5-day spa retreat for your soul or something. We think it's supposed to be easy.
Bukowski just completely obliterates that idea. For him, going all the way meant sacrifice. It meant rejection. It meant losing girlfriends, relatives, maybe even your own mind. He says isolation is the gift. The struggle, the pain, the test of your endurance, that's not something you avoid. That's the whole point.
He basically saw life as two sides of the same coin. You can't have one without the other. You don't get to experience real, deep love without the risk of crushing heartache. You don't achieve anything great without going through pain. And you absolutely cannot find meaning in your life without sacrifice. They're completely inseparable. And this is such a powerful way to look at it. The struggle isn't some obstacle on your way to finding purpose. The struggle is the purpose. The pain is the signal. For Bukowski, the only way you know something is truly meaningful is because you feel this deep, undeniable pull to suffer for it.
So after all that, what's the big takeaway? How do we actually use the wisdom of a lowlife like Bukowski? Well, it all kind of boils down to this one conclusion. Stop trying so hard and start actually living. Find what kills you.
So if you wanted to follow the Bukowski path, it might look something like this. Step 1, stop trying. Just drop the act, end the avoidance, and be honest. Step 2, start living. Actually engage with life, the good parts and the awful parts. 3, embrace the struggle. See it as a sign that you're on the right track. And finally, step 4, find your vehicle to death, that one thing that is so essential to who you are that you literally can't live without it.
Which brings us to his most famous quote, the one that really sums up his entire philosophy. Find what you love and let it kill you. Now that doesn't mean self-destruct. It means finding something you're so passionate about, you give it everything you have. You let it consume you, because a life without it just isn't an option.
So I'm going to leave you with this. For just a minute, forget about asking what makes you happy. Ask yourself the Bukowski question instead. What are you willing to suffer for? Because the answer to that, well, that might just be the most important thing you ever figure out.